Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to today's podcast. I'm so grateful to have you here today in this space. My name is Cass. I am a holistic mentor for intuitive development, shadow work, and inner child healing. And I also practice and share the beautiful modality of Reiki healing. I am so excited to have you here for today's conversation. Today is episode 3, and we're going to be talking about supporting the ego and preventing it from stepping into what I call CEO mode and really taking over. So CEO mode is something that I refer to in my classes. It is just a little example that I came up with to really explain what the role of the ego is. And if you haven't listened to my first episode around inner child healing, I highly recommend going back and listening to it, because I do touch a little bit on this in that episode. But essentially, our ego is there to keep us safe, and it takes all of the evidence from our past experiences and the lessons, and then uses this to determine what will and won't keep us safe going forward. And this means that its job is to keep us on familiar territory. It doesn't like the unknown. It doesn't like to be spontaneous. It doesn't like the unpredictability of anything. And so our ego loves to step into this thing that I call CEO mode, where it really starts to step forward and take charge. And in today's episode, I want to talk about how to support your ego so that it can continue to feel safe and secure, and essentially just leave you alone to be in the moment and enjoy this human life experience that little bit more. So with humans being so habitual, unfortunately, this does mean that through generations, we have really relied on things having tangible evidence to feel safe and secure before making decisions and going and jumping into new opportunities. Unfortunately, not every situation in your life is going to have tangible evidence. Sometimes you're going to be the leader and need to actually create that tangible evidence for yourself, which requires courage, and that also requires having an ego that's going to take a back seat and let you take the lead. This can be difficult because your ego is going to challenge you with a lot of limiting beliefs to really try and cover all bases and make sure that your intentions are strong. So when you're being presented with all of these limiting beliefs, it's okay to question them, it's okay to go over them, but always come back to your intentions and remind yourself the ego is simply just trying to test out all the different possibilities and all the different scenarios and determine if the risk is still worth stepping into. If you hold a strong intention, your ego is going to be able to step back and trust your vision that little bit more. You may not possess all the answers just yet of how your pathway is going to work out going forward, but your ego is sitting there eagerly waiting for you to show them the tangible evidence that this pathway is safe and it's going to be in your best interest. And one of the ways that you can do this is looking for role models, looking for examples of courage, looking for examples of people who went after what they wanted without those answers up front and got it. So it's not about always looking for role models of people who have done the exact same thing as you, but looking at where having that leap of courage actually worked out for people. Anytime that your ego is starting to question things on this pathway because things aren't happening fast enough or they don't look like a strong enough vision, the best thing you can do is come back to your intentions, come back to your why, reestablish why this journey is so important no matter how it plays out, no matter what the journey looks like. Come back to your intention, and you're just going to create this safe space for your ego to communicate its fears with you, not suppress them, but also not sabotage you. If you can step into an awareness where you recognize when your ego is starting to lead from fear rather than you're actually living out of your intuition, you're going to have a lot less time having to deal with potential sabotage, because your ego is going to be like, okay, they've got this, they've got some solutions, they've got some inspiration, they're willing to look at different opportunities, and they've got really strong intentions behind this, and they've also created enough of a support space for themselves that if it doesn't work out, they're gonna be okay. And that's one of the biggest things that your ego wants, is to know that you have solid foundations and support, so that if it doesn't go to plan, your ego knows you're still safe. You're still safe from spiraling. You're still safe from being bankrupt or whatever it is. Your ego is just looking for that evidence that you are going to be safe no matter what the pathway is. So if you can spend time really ensuring that you have healthy communication in your relationships, you have healthy soundboards who give you constructive insight and feedback, and you are surrounded by expanders, and you have got really healthy foundations in and around yourself, you're going to be able to leap with so much more ease, and your ego is not going to get in your way. The biggest thing for keeping your ego from destroying your goals and sabotaging is for it to feel like you are safe. So by spending the time to secure your foundations, the next thing you need to do is tackle those limiting beliefs, because they're going to come up, and they should come up. Don't punish your ego for trying to keep you safe. Don't demonize it. Spend the time, acknowledge the concerns, acknowledge the fears, and work your way through them. Those fears don't have to be true. They don't have to be your truth. If you had this project that you were so passionate about, and someone else came up to you and was like, hey, I just want to make sure that you have thought about this, this, and this, and this, you would sit there, go through the list, and go, yes, I've thought about this. Yes, I've thought about this. No, I haven't thought about this, but this is what I can do. Yes, I've thought about this. No, I haven't considered this, but I can ask this person about that. Your ego is doing exactly the same thing. Your ego is taking what little data it has from this pathway ahead of you, and it's going, okay, have you considered this? Have you considered this? Have you considered this? And guess what? It's framing all the potential outcomes based off your past experiences. So if you have very limiting past experiences and you only ever repetitively put yourself in the same spaces and the same rooms, your ego is only ever going to expect the same outcome. Change requires change. Get yourself in different spaces. Get yourself in different rooms. And don't be afraid to explore the ego's questions, but remember to stay true to your intention. And when you have a strong intention, it's going to be so much easier. If you start to question your pathway, you may need to revisit your intention and reset it. That's going to be so important that you consider that. Anytime that a pathway feels really easy and really simple, it's likely because you're treading on very familiar territory, and your ego is like, you've got this, it's been successful before, I don't need to bother you, keep going, enjoy it, right? That's what happens. So today's reflection that I really want you to have is, where in your life are you still following the same pathway, the same habits, getting in the same spaces? Are you spending any time expanding yourself? Because if you have these big goals, these big dreams, these big desires, you're going to have to create change to experience change. Where are you limiting yourself to experiencing change? And the other question is, what are your foundations like? Are your foundations solid enough for your ego to feel safe for you to create change? I hope you enjoyed today's podcast episode, and if you did, you can find me on my socials in the show notes, or you can listen in to some of my other podcast episodes. Have an amazing week, and I am so grateful for you joining me in this space today.